What can the study of constructed languages teach us about world history? Studying constructed languages, particularly international auxiliary languages, serve as more than a mere linguistic exercise. These languages provide us with alternative ways of understanding world history by inviting us to focus on the cultural, social, and political contexts in which these languages emerged. Looking at, for example, Volapük, Esperanto, or Tokipona enable us to learn more about what motivated these languages creators and what the use of these languages can tell us about the 20th and 21st centuries. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were marked by the invention of the telephone, diesel locomotives, and the first motorized airplanes. As technologies boosted the cross-border and cross-continental circulation of people, goods, and ideas, a question emerged. In which language would people communicate in this increasingly integrated world? At a time when English was much less used than nowadays, many languages were created as answers to this question. In this context, Johann Martin Schleyer created Volapük, hoping that this universal language would help bring humankind together. Some years later, Ludwig Leiser Zamenhof created Esperanto, aiming to promote international understanding and peace. Learning about how these languages came into being gives us an entryway to understanding the rising nationalism in Europe at the time. For many people, these international auxiliary languages were perceived as tools to oppose nationalist rivalries and to circumvent the use of national languages in international communication. The 20th century was also marked by the rise of totalitarian regimes that perceived languages as tools of political manipulation and cultural hegemony. Nazi Germany, for example, fascist Italy, and the Soviet Union sought to promote linguistic purity as part of their nationalist agendas, which involved oppressing speakers of minority languages, shutting down correspondence exchange in foreign languages, and even arresting Esperanto speakers, for example, whose internationalism was not in line with the ultra-nationalism that these regimes defended. But here I've talked mostly about the first half of the 20th century. Much more recently, Sonia Lang created a constructed language called Tokipona. Tokipona is not aimed at overcoming conflicts in international and multicultural contexts, but at encouraging positive thinking and promoting happiness. These different goals say something about how language creators perceive the world and how speakers of constructed languages see these languages as part of the solution to the world's problems. But so far, I've talked mostly about languages created in the global north. What does all this have to say to the global south? There's much more to be explored if we think, for example, about Balai Balan, a language created in the Ottoman Empire in the 14th century. But these are just some examples of what we can learn about the connections between constructed languages and world history. But what can constructed languages teach you about world history? Well, this is up to you to find out and then tell us. But if you want to learn more about these themes, a good starting point would be to check the journals and conferences organized by the Center for Research and Documentation on World Language Problems. This research center holds conferences on Esperanto studies, language planning, and linguistic justice, and publishes two journals, Language Problems and Language Planning, and Esperantologio, Esperanto Studies. This research center also offers a mentorship program to encourage new researchers to take their first steps into learning more about what constructed languages and their speakers have to say to linguists, historians, anthropologists, and sociologists.